Hi there, this is Sifu Slim, and I am here in Florida, safe and sound currently. We've got a world crisis of epic proportions going on that started off with Russia invading the Ukraine, amassing troops, first of all, on the border. Ukraine is not a NATO ally, but it's surrounded by, not on all sides, but all the north and west and south. We have NATO allies, and there's a contract between the NATO allies to protect each other and to stop foreign invasions and do all kinds of things to prevent anyone from invading them, occupying them, destroying them, those types of things. So I've got my red here, I've got red couches, and I've got a red kombucha. So I'm surrounded by red. And now I've got a friend and contact, Jim Hyllested, recently from Florida, who's also being or was surrounded by red until just the last 48 hours. Say hello, Jim.
Hello, Sifu.
So
how are you?
You started a journey. How long ago was that you started your journey?
I actually started the journey on November 1st, 2021.
And what prompted you to leave Florida at a time where we didn't know that there was a world crisis looming?
It all goes back to about 13 years ago. I had met a young lady, and we had kept in contact for 13 years, and decided that it was time to maybe meet. And unfortunately, we had spent some time in the Dominican Republic, in the nice weather, and we had talked about maybe me coming to Russia and meeting her family, and maybe seeing where things went. Well, we decided on me coming to Russia actually in the beginning of winter, which was November 1st. And I left Florida, flew to New York City, and from New York City straight to Moscow, where she met me. And that's where the journey began.
And that was a time of COVID. So if you didn't have enough trouble being in Russia with more security towards Americans in recent years than and maybe other times in the past 2 decades, there was COVID going on. The world was seeing conflicting reports about what was happening with COVID, the vaccine story, which test we needed, how many hours and days our test was going to last. So you had, even without any invasion of the Ukraine by Russia, you had enough hurdles to navigate without that, correct?
Actually, when I received my Russian visa, I was first of all, excited, so excited, and then I had to book a plane ticket, and then I had to get a PCR test that 3 days before, 72 hours before flying. And it's funny, in Florida, I went and got the test. Coming back, and it was kind of stressing me out. So I went and got a rapid test, and I was able to get the test back in 9 hours, and I headed to Fort Lauderdale and boarded the plane, and away I went. And soon to find out that when I arrived in Moscow, that I needed to get another PCR test. So the PCR test that I actually got in Florida was not even necessary, because I didn't need it to board the plane in the United States. Or to board the plane going to Russia, only when I got to Russia. So I got the PCR test in the airport. I met her. We got the PCR test. We both had to get a PCR test because we were going to St. Petersburg. So we stayed in Moscow a couple of days and saw the sights and saw the Kremlin and all the touristy stuff. And the weather was starting to get a little chilly. And, being from Florida, I'm very warm-blooded, so it wasn't that big a deal. Mm-hmm. So then we hopped on a plane, and we made sure we had all of our ducks in order in regards to the PCR test at the hotel in St. Petersburg, and getting on the planes and so forth within Russia. And so then we went to St. Petersburg, and we hung out there for a few days, and then it was time to go meet the parents. And I was a little nervous, and she said her mom doesn't speak a lot of English, and she speaks very good English. She's an English teacher, and she teaches English through music, through the piano. So we always had great communication, and she learned a lot more from me as well. But the family on the other side didn't know anything. So it was going to be an interesting dynamic. And then to find out that I was going to be living with her and her mother, and soon to find out her brother was actually staying on the couch in the kitchen. So it was definitely a change in lifestyle for me. Going to the store every day, the snow started coming, ice, carrying bags of groceries, and shopping every day, and eating a lot of soup and potatoes and bread, and it was different. And just the living arrangements. And she has a daughter. She has a 3-year-old daughter. And so there's the American and 3 Russians in a house. So it was definitely different. And getting around in the city that she lived in, there's taxis available, and walking. She likes to walk everywhere. So I had to kind of get used to that. And I thought I could probably get away with it by wearing my trusty tennis shoes that I would wear in flip-flops or whatever in Florida. And that turned out not so good for me. I took a couple spills and twisted my knee, and broke a couple bottles in the bags of groceries. And I learned really quickly that I need to get some snowshoes and start learning how to navigate this city that just got 2 feet of snow.
So you're wearing some sports apparel. Maybe you could describe what you're wearing and how sports has been part of your life at the collegiate level, and being involved in transporting professional athletes around and playing golf with people like Michael Jordan. Share a little bit about your what you're wearing and your athletic past.
Well, actually, the shirt is a hockey jersey, and I was. Back in my early childhood, my father used to take me to hockey games, and I always loved it. And I was always intrigued of, when Russia played the United States in the Olympics, and I always watched hockey. In Arizona, growing up in Arizona, they never had a professional hockey team, but they had an IHL team, and it was a smaller organization that basically. I loved it as a kid because I would go there, and my dad would always tell me, don't tell your mother that they were fighting and they got their teeth knocked out, and all these things. That first thing I would do, I'd run in and say, "Oh, Mom, you wouldn't believe the guy's face was bloody," and so it was always a fun time. So I could always appreciate the hockey on the lower level. The shirt that I'm wearing is Nishkahemik, which is the town that I.
Can you move yourself to show that a little bit more?
It's the Nishkahemik Wolves, and they are based in Nizhkamsk, which is the town in Russia where she actually is from. And during my time there, I thought to myself, God, I was sitting around the apartment all day. It's snowing. I gotta get out and kind of do something. So she wrote a letter all in Russian, basically a little resume about myself, and I presented it to the Russian hockey organization that plays in the KHL. And they thought it was the greatest thing for me to come in there as an American, not speaking Russian, even though I'd learned a little bit on Duolingo, and to come in there with this piece of paper, and that was my way of communicating. And next thing you know, I was talking to the general manager, and he fell in love with me and asked me to if I wanted to work there for the remainder of my time in Russia, and I agreed, and so I started working. So my past has basically been golf. I played professional golf for almost 25 years, and had golf schools and so forth around the country, and kind of just set all of that aside for a while, and decided to take a little Russian adventure, and that's exactly what I did.
what your connection with Michael Jordan, maybe share that and share what you think Michael might think of your current escapades of the last few months.
Probably, well, Michael Jordan included. There's not too many people that would probably agree on what I did, and so forth. I actually met him on numerous occasions, and he found out that I had a car service, and so we did transportation for him, among other athletes like Derek Jeter and a couple other baseball players. And I started this good car service in Florida, and taking people back and forth to the airport. And the car service was started with a Porsche Cayenne, of all cars. So I ended up
6'8" people and strong people in a Porsche Cayenne.
Well, I had to do some adjustments with the seats and so forth, because I'm 6'3", and I remember somebody said one time that I can't believe it. I mean, you had Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan and yourself in the same car. You know, you had like 21 feet of people in or more. It was always a fun time, and he never minded it, and it was a good relationship.
You met him through that, not through golf.
I actually met him through another friend in Jupiter. We had played golf in the same group many times, and I had never actually met him, because if I ever won any money against him, someone else would always bring the money. And so I never actually met him until one day I thought I got to meet this guy, and I ended up meeting him, and I gave him a business card, and that's where we went from there.
Fantastic. So would you consider what you've done the last several months a normal thing for you, or out of the norm for you to pick up and go somewhere far away, especially in the winter time, going to Russia?
Yeah, it was a tough decision that I pondered on, especially when I had a couple places in Florida, and I was actually renting a place for a while, and the lease came up, and it kind of was a timing thing, and the car business with COVID had kind of dropped off a little bit. We kind of kind of improvised by doing food delivery and prescription delivery and so on and so forth. But the actual person in the car, that was kind of very slow at the moment. And I thought, with everything that's going on with COVID, this is a good time for me to maybe go somewhere else for a while and let things calm down. And little did I know that they were going to change so rapidly, and COVID was almost going to disappear, and a new story, was hitting the headlines, and I happened to be right in the middle of it.
So you're slipping around Nishkamov, and you're working in the hockey business, helping that organization. How did you get involved with Russian billiards?
Well, they were only able to offer me a job working 8 to 12 for very little money. I mean, but what comes along with the very little money that you make is that a gallon of milk is 20 cents, and bread is 30 cents a loaf, and eggs are 50 cents. So it's all relative, when it comes down to the money aspect of it. So, but I didn't mind. I was okay with that. And basically I had come there just to kind of help her family out, and to, kind of see Russia. I'd never been to Russia, and, I picked a kind of a weird time to go there, but after I would work from 8 to 12, 3 days a week, I would go into, I love pool and always played pool. And I went into a pool hall, one of the only pool halls in the town, and it's named Shar. And I went in there one day, and there was a girl working, and she said, was speaking to me in Google Translate, and I wanted a table, and I'm like, God, where are the colored balls? I mean, they were all white balls and one red ball, and they were the size of grapefruits, and the pockets were very, very tight, and it was an interesting experience. I think I hit 100 shots before I made a ball. It was I mean, the ball had to almost be halfway down the pocket before I could shoot at it and make it. So it was almost like a challenge to me, like golf was. And I was self-taught in golf. I dug it out of the ground in Phoenix, Arizona, in the 120-degree heat. And so I thought, God, this billiard game, it is one heck of a challenge. I think I'm going to pursue this. And next thing you know, a couple of very friendly Russian gentlemen were helping me out. And next thing you know, the whole billiard place was on my side and helping me out. And I started playing in tournaments, and I started playing for money. And they were complimenting me right and left how quickly I picked up the game. They said sometimes it takes 3 or 4 years before you start getting decent at this game. And then one day I was playing in a tournament, and I just, as of recently, like a couple of weeks ago, and I was playing in a tournament they were always on Sundays, and I ended up beating a guy that shouldn't have been beat by an American, and the whole place erupted in celebration. It was like the American guy has beaten this guy. They were just cheersing, and of course I lost my next 2 games to lower level players, but it felt pretty good to actually beat this guy out of 3 games on a Russian billiard table. I felt like I was making some progress, and I had actually gone to the extent, my friend Max, he had insisted almost that I get my own billiard stick. So we went online and we ordered one from one of the top billiard cue makers in Russia. So I ordered my stick. I was so excited. I got my own stick. I got my own case. They call it milk. They don't call it chalk. And I got my stick and I put it to work immediately. And in the beginning, I thought to myself, I'd been playing with the house cues and I got used to those. And then I had to turn around and get used to this other type of stick, which was a lot heavier, and it was very well balanced. And it was a real weapon for me. I mean, so it really took my game to another level. And then all of a sudden, I had to leave the town abruptly, and luckily the pool stick, not in the bag, was able to fit in my suitcase, like corner to corner. I wedged it in there, and I'm like, I'm not leaving here without this stick. So that's something that I'll always remember from the town I was in. And it was interesting.
So eventually you got your own place in town, and you continued on, and you had a life that was doable, and you were enjoying it. It's an interesting experience. You've got the billiards, you've got your hockey connection, and then it's time to leave because of an invasion that started about a month ago. And the troops being amassed on the border of the Ukraine, the Russian troops. And we had a conversation where I looked up on the map and saw where you were, and I said, you've got nowhere to go south. If you go west, you're going to hit Belarus and the Ukraine, and that's where all the troops are. And if you go north, it's too far. So you're really in a bind. You can't go east. So I said, you're in a really rough bind. And I said, the only thing I can think of is getting in a car and driving for a really long time with a hired driver. And then eventually you wound up doing something like that. So tell us about how your decision-making went over the last three weeks of trying to figure out if you were going to stay, if you were going to go, and what prompted you, and the connection you made to get out of where you were.
Well, Sifu, what happened is Marina and I had sat down and had a heart-to-heart after 3 months, 4 months of being there, and decided that her child was going to it was going to be very tough forever to get her out of the country, and Marina as well. and this was before the war even started, we had decided that maybe we just kind of leave it at friends, and I'm gonna go get my own place, so it's not going to be uncomfortable. I'm gonna get my own place, and I found one of the guys at the pool hall, and I said, hey, can you find me an apartment that was close to the pool hall? And I had still another month and a half left on my 180-day stay, but on a 3-year multi-entry visa, I could just leave the country for 1 minute, turn around and come back. And I thought that that's what I was going to do, and kind of stay in Russia. And for at least 3 years. Well, things came to a screeching halt when my bank card stopped working, and I had very little rubles. Luckily, I had withdrew some rubles out of the bank before they sucked one of my cards into the bank, and then I had one card
back.
Pardon me?
You never got that card back?
I never got the card back. They sucked the card in, and I was able to use my card like at the pool hall and stuff, but everything started slowly shutting down, and with the sanctions and so forth that we're putting on Russia, and the Visa and the MasterCard situation. So I thought to myself, okay, I paid till the end of the month. I told my friend, I said, it looks like I'm gonna have to leave, and I ended up talking to some people in Florida. A girl that I know in Florida had a couple of connections from working with a couple gentlemen that had some connections in Russia, and through the shipping.
Unnamed connections.
Pardon me?
All unnamed connections.
All unnamed connections, and they got in contact, and it was like this team was starting to build, like, okay, Jim needs to leave. Now all of a sudden commercial air travel is becoming, flying out of the country is becoming more difficult. It turns out that I was able to fly within the country, not a problem. But when it came down to actually leaving the country, it was going to need to be by vehicle and walking. So the way it went was one night I had called up this gentleman, and the connection, it came from Florida, and I called him up, and we were talking on WhatsApp, and he gave me specific directions, and he sent me a plane ticket and said, you need to get to St. Petersburg. Here's a ticket from your town to Moscow. You have a 4.5 layover there, and then to St. Petersburg. Well, along that journey, my credit card wasn't working, and I had taken very little food with me. So, I mean, I didn't want to drink the water, and I couldn't buy any water, and I had very little rubles with me. And I thought I needed to save that for an absolute emergency. So that's what I ended up doing. So I ended up getting to Moscow, and it was interesting there. It was different than when I landed originally, and things had just changed. There was a lot of police presence, and a lot of that going on. And then, of course, I had to get another COVID test. So I got a PCR test in order to actually leave the country. And we had decided early on that Estonia was going to be the closest route to St. Petersburg. So I flew. The gentleman met me in the St. Petersburg airport with a sign that said James Dean Hyllested on it. And I had never met the guy in my entire life. So I was a little bit leery of a Russian guy wanting to help like this. Mm-hmm. And so he immediately takes me to a sushi restaurant, which I love sushi. So we had a nice sushi dinner. He paid for it. He said, I'm going to take you to my apartment, and you're going to hang out there for a couple hours, and then we're going to go back to the St. Petersburg airport, and we're going to pick up some people, and then you're going to be on your way on your Russian adventure.
So did you feel like you were in like a James Bond plot gone wrong?
I thought about changing my name at the time to Jim Bourne instead of Jason Bourne. I mean, what bothered me a little bit was when I went to his apartment. He lived on the 11th floor. he had told me a little bit about himself, that his wife was in the country and the kids were in the country, and he's there working. He used to work security for like a lot of big name people. And that made me feel comfortable. But then when we get to his house, he says, "Well, make yourself comfortable and hang out." And he leaves. And on his way out, I hear the door locking from the outside. So I'm like, okay, so this guy now has locked me in his apartment, and he says he's going to be back at 6 o'clock. It was a little scary. I was able to use the internet. I actually contacted a couple of friends and let them know that I'm locked in an apartment right now in St. Petersburg, Russia, and I'm not sure what's going on exactly. I was a little concerned. So he finally shows back up, and he gives me, brings some tea in, and then I'm thinking, God, hopefully the tea's not doesn't have anything in it. I was just a little scared. And that was the only point. At that point, I was a little concerned. So moving forward, 6 o'clock on the dot, he goes, "Let's go." I grabbed my bags and my backpack, and we head back to the St. Petersburg airport, and sat there and had a couple of, he was drinking grapefruit juice. And of course I had to have a couple beers. I'm like, and he bought the beers, and he says, "I'm waiting for my friends." And I'm like, okay, I sat there, and 30 minutes go by, an hour goes by, an hour and a half goes by. And all of a sudden, these 5 people showed up, a husband and wife, and another husband and wife, and a 7-year-old child. And they were from Ukraine. And I'm thinking to myself, an American guy and 5 Ukrainians are headed to the border. Whew. Then things started getting really interesting. We sat at the table in the airport and went over a plan. And the plan was to get in a van. We were going to drive to the border with a Russian driver.
To the Estonia border?
To the Estonia border. From that point, we were going to go across the border. And once we got across the border, the plan was to go to Tallinn. And then it really wasn't decided at that point. So we get in the van, and one of the gentlemen spoke pretty good English. He worked for a shipping company in Ukraine. And so he did okay, but he had gone through hardship in 2014 as well and lost everything. And now all of a sudden, the second time within 6 years, he's lost everything again. And he's with his wife, and they have a son. And the son was in Georgia. And actually, I'm going to meet the son tomorrow. But we started on this journey, and we get close to the border, and he tells me, go through your phone and delete everything on your phone that possibly could be incriminating, like anything that you've said about the war or anything anyone else has said. So it took me about 25 minutes to delete everything on my phone that could have been incriminating if they were to grab my phone at the border and look through it. So I did all that. I just obeyed the orders, and we were crammed in this van and with all this luggage. And I only had my suitcase and a backpack. They had 4 and 5 suitcases. They had everything with them. So it was a tough road, and the road, it was dark, and at this time now it's close to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and we finally arrived at the border.
Below zero.
And it was about a degree out. Yeah. So we get to the first checkpoint, and all of a sudden there's an M16 barrel in the window of the car. And of course I'm sitting in the front, and that's the window that got rolled down. So they see the American, and they see the 5 Ukrainians, and they're kind of looking at each other like they don't know what to make of this whole thing. And they're asking if we're friends. And of course I had to say we were friends, even though we had met like 4.5 hours ago. And everyone gave their passports, and they looked at the passports and waved us through. So that was the first hurdle.
Was that after the 10 miles of trucks?
No, that's when you started seeing the 10 miles of trucks. Once you got past that checkpoint, it was semi after semi after semi for about 12 miles. And these trucks are sitting there waiting to be inspected. And sometimes they wait there for 30 days. It's an amazing
Do
to get into.
they have access like any other trucks coming down, you think, to give them fuel so they can avoid freezing to death?
They said a lot of the trucks, they do have a fuel truck, and they charge these guys astronomical prices, even though gas is only $1 a gallon in Russia. They're charging these guys $5-6 a gallon. So in order to keep them there, and sometimes they have produce, and sometimes they have electronics, and they have numerous things in these trucks trying to get across, that they've sold to Estonia. And it's or they might be going even farther into Lithuania or Latvia. And it was just blowing my mind that they were sitting there on the side of the road like this. But I was able to get the translation through the one gentleman that was talking. He knows Russian, so he was kind of enlightening me about what was being said.
So in one conversation you and I shared during that time, you were talking about it almost looks like the end of the world to see all these trucks lined up trying to make their deliveries, but also to try to get the heck out of Russia. Maybe if they made it across, they would stay there. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like that actually, Sifu. I believe it is like that all the time. I mean, it wasn't just because the war was going on. I mean, this is what they do. They're not able to leave the country. So, they were going to deliver their goods and they were going to come back. I mean, if they left, yeah, it could be a problem. So especially to some of these countries, the other countries just wouldn't accept it. So
yeah, and their families back home would suffer. They could put sanctions on their family, kick them out of school, cut off their gas. They could do all kinds of stuff. Someone left the country.
The husband being a breadwinner, and the husband was doing what he can. It's an amazing lifestyle, to have to live like that. And I feel sorry for some of them there, that are doing that. But in the meantime, I'm sitting in a van with people that are fleeing a war, and with all of their stuff, and it was amazing. We get to the border, and the last 200 yards of the border, there were 4-foot deep potholes, and it was almost like, we don't want you to come here into this area. We don't want you to leave. We want you to stay here. And they made it feel that way. So this van made it up to the immigration and the border patrol, and everybody piled out of the van, and we went in, and I was met by a very short Russian gentleman. And he sees me, and the first thing he says is, "How much money do you have?" And I looked at him and said, "I have about $15,000 in rubles, which is nothing, and it's even less."
15,000 rubles, not dollars. You said $15,000 in rubles.
Yeah, $15,000 in rubles. It was a wad about that thick.
So you think it was worth $15,000?
Well, the 15,000, that was what I had left. And then I had a $100 bill, American $100 bill. And when I told him that, 15,000 rubles is about $50 or less. So
when we said $15,000 in rubles, that's what confused me. So it's $50 worth of rubles and a huge amount of bills. Yeah.
Yes, in bills, in 100 rubles pile, 100 ruble pile was the amount. It's 15,000 rubles, which equals out to about less than $50 in America. But I had the $100 bill on the outside, so it looked like I had a lot of money. But he basically looks at me and gives me this dirty look, and just kind of pointed away, like, get out of here, go over there to the other side, where there was another lady, and she does all the passport stamping. And I thought, wow, okay, first of all, they didn't check my bags, they didn't check anything, they didn't even check my phone. They didn't check my phone, and they sent me to this lady. Well, I shouldn't have been so happy so quickly, because the lady looks at me, and you have to take your mask down and take your hat off, and she looks and back and forth, and she sees the Russian visa and she sees the American visa, and immediately says, "Go back over there to the other side." where the Ukrainians were standing, and now a couple other people. Now it's 2, 3 in the morning, so there's now a couple more people have come there. First of all, us showing up at that time in the morning looked a little bizarre, and an American with the Ukrainians was even more bizarre. So they thought, God, what is going on? We had them a little confused. So I go back to the other side and I asked this guy who spoke broken English. I asked him, I said, what's going on? He goes, they're calling a couple more people. And I thought, okay, they're going to call a couple more people. I wonder who these people are. Well, those people were two 25-year-old Russian negotiators. And they were going to ask me some questions. So the questions started. And the first question was, the girl you came to see, is she a mail order bride? I said, no, I've known her for 13 years. He kind of looked at me like, 13 years. Wow, that's a long time. And now you're here in Russia and now you're leaving. It's what's going on here? And we started talking. He asked me a slew of questions, which I answered to the best of my ability, like shaking like a leaf a little bit and trying not to act nervous. But I was starting to get a little nervous. And then I thought he was going to go through my phone and go through my stuff, which he would have found nothing illegal, but it was still a really unnerving time for me. And I'd never been through anything like that in my entire life. And that's when I started thinking about the gentleman in St. Petersburg. Good luck on your Russian adventure. And I thought, this is what he's talking about, the Russian adventure. The driving was a piece of cake. And now all of a sudden, it's time to go across the border. This is where it's going to get a little interesting. So make a long story short, 45 minutes later, this young kid says to me, he goes, do you like hockey? And I said, I worked for a hockey team.
This is the immigration official?
This is the immigration interrogator. And he says, I love hockey. And I said, I played golf for a living. I started telling him more about myself. And then I willingly opened up my phone and showed him a couple pictures. I actually showed him a video that you had done.
Shot for the golf lesson?
That you shot for the golf lesson. And he was just, his face totally, and everything about him turned into a different person. He became almost like a friend to me, and we were laughing and talking, and he spoke good English, so he could relate. And we were talking about NFL and Major League Baseball, and so it's just all of a sudden the mood totally changed, and he said, okay, all right, you're good. After he wrote down a few things, and he goes, you're okay, go over there again. So I went over there to the another lady now this time, and she stamped my passport, and I was out, but the 5 Ukrainians were still there. The 2 ladies had gotten through, but the guys, they were questioning. And at the airport, we had discussed that maybe they were going to give me, because they brought all their money with them. They were, they took it out of the banks. And so you were only allowed $10,000 to come across the border with. And they had much more than $10,000. And they were thinking the plan was to give myself like $5,000 or $6,000 and equally distribute the money to where nobody had more than $10,000. Well, we actually did that, and they ended up free and clear. They weren't checked on the money, and they ended up, after a couple hours at the border, they ended up getting through as well. But it was really unnerving for them. I could only imagine, what they were going through, that what they had already gone through, and they're leaving part of their family still in Ukraine, and now they're at the border, and the bond was getting tighter with these people as we went along, and then all of a sudden we were walking down this long, about a quarter-mile corridor to Estonia, and it was an experience that that whole Russian experience is something that I'll never forget. And you have to appreciate the freedom that you have, and everything that's going with the United States, and you know, just being able to hop in the car and just go wherever you want. And you know, it was crazy. It was crazy. So we're walking down the corridor area, and there's another little Russian girl that was going to see her family in Prague, and she had like 4 suitcases and this picture, and I felt bad for her.
A framed picture?
A framed picture that was about 5 feet by 5 feet. So it was not a small picture. It was a pretty big picture. And she had all these bags, and she was struggling with it. So I'm like, hi, I got to help this girl out. So this
is a 1/4 mile tunnel type thing you're going through?
Yeah, like maybe not exactly a 1/4 mile, but it's not a tunnel. It's all open. It's gated. It's fenced. It's got fence on the side and top.
It can snow through there onto you?
It can snow through the sides, but it couldn't snow if the wind was blowing. You feel the wind from the sides, but it had a top on it. But still, it's just this long walk, and I couldn't see.
It's like a cattle drive tunnel with fences on each side.
Pretty much. But you can't like jump out. I mean, it's enclosed with fence and barbed wire and everything. So, I mean, it was a long walk, and it was getting colder. I mean, it was becoming early in the morning, and it was getting a lot colder. And you know, here I am helping this girl, and the Ukrainian people were on a mission. I mean, they just were head down and walking with all their luggage, and they were leaving me in the dust because, you know, here I am back here with this girl, and we get to the Estonia border finally, and to the checkpoint there, and I show up with that picture because now the girl has fallen behind, and so we walk up to the Estonia border with the with the Ukrainians, and the first thing the guy says to me was, are you friends with them? Do you know them? And I had to say, yes, I know them. I couldn't say I just met them. I mean, I had to tell a little white lie, but you know, it was worth their safety and my safety as well, even on the other side. So I ended up, I have this picture, and I told the Border Patrol, I said, I have to get this picture to this girl. Can I just leave it here? He said, don't mess with me. You're on the Russian-Ukraine, you're on the Russian-Estonia border. Don't mess with us. Blah, 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 blah. And some other choice words were said. And I said, okay. And the one Ukrainian guy goes, Jim, just do what he says. And I'm like, okay. So I waited.
That's the Estonia official that you just spoke with.
That's the Estonia official. There was 2 of them. And and then finally, so they took the Ukrainian people in, and I waited out in the cold for this girl to come and retrieve her picture. And once she retrieved her picture, they ended up taking me in. Well, they take me up to the window, and sure enough, the first thing they asked me is, you know, are you vaccinated? Well, I said, I have a PCR test from Moscow. They said, let me ask you one more time. Are you vaccinated? I said, no, I'm not vaccinated. He said, well, you can't enter our country. My heart dropped into my stomach immediately. I thought, okay, I'm on the Russian-Estonia border. Now they're not going to let me into Estonia. What do I do? What do I do? And I already knew that all of the Ukrainian people were all vaccinated. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is not a good situation to be in. After standing there a little bit, kind of almost like breaking a tear, I thought to myself, okay. This is
48 hours ago or 72 hours ago?
This was on Monday morning, early. And we're Friday now, so 4 days ago. So the one guard comes up to me, and a younger guard comes up to me, and he looks me straight in the eye and says, you realize you need to be vaccinated to come into this country? I said, I didn't realize that. I said, I was told I need a PCR test. He goes, let me tell you something. we're going to cut you a break. Keep your distance from people. The response on my heart went back up into where it belonged, and my response was, okay, no problem.
Did
I
you
will
all
keep
have
my distance.
masks on talking to each other?
Yes, yes. And I didn't think he could hear me, so I pulled my mask on. He kept going like this to me, put your mask back on. Keep your distance from people. I'll never forget him saying that. And next thing you know, my passport was stamped, and I was in Estonia, and they were still being talked to and asked questions. And of course, they were saying that I was a friend of theirs, and so everybody was on the same page. Thank God. Nobody was saying anything
So
crazy.
the escape has happened. We don't know if Russia's going to invade Latvia or any of the other countries that could be on your path. So we'll talk about that next time. I must go and skedaddle right now. So do pobачення, that's goodbye. I'll see you later in Ukraine. And до свидания.
That's thank you, Russian.
Спасибо.
Spasibo.
We did it, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you,
Aloha.
Steve.
Be well, my
You're
friend.
and a scholar, and I appreciate you keeping in touch with me through this whole ordeal, and you've been very instrumental. And I'm glad you wanted to listen to some of the story, and there's more story to come, and it still gets pretty good.
Good for the mental health, and it's good that you're keeping yourself around other people who are in similar circumstances and want to welcome you into that journey. So that's good news. So we'll talk again.
Absolutely. Couldn't have done it without them. I couldn't have done it without them. And it all started in Florida. So with a couple guys in Florida that I have to thank greatly as well. So I'm going to be giving them a call later on tonight and expressing my condolences and my well wishes to them and thanks. And I can't thank them enough. So.
Do pobачення. Take care, brother.
Thank you, Sifu. I'll talk to you later.